What's up, Bills Mafia? Welcome back to the channel, your home for everything Buffalo Bills. The offseason grind is in full swing, and let me tell you, this team is doing everything it can to sharpen its edge. Whether it's in the film room, on the practice field, or through smart additions to the roster, the Buffalo Bills are locked in on one goal: getting better every single day to bring a championship to Western New York. Now, before we dive into today's two big stories: Elijah Moore falling in love with Buffalo and the growing situation with James Cook's contract, take a second, smash that like button, and make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an update. Alright, let's get into it. Let's start with wide receiver Elijah Moore, a name you've probably heard tossed around this offseason, but one you might not fully appreciate just yet. For Moore, Buffalo isn't just another stop. It might actually be the stop. A place to reset, regroup, and finally reach the potential that had him drafted in the second round just a few years ago. Moore's NFL journey so far? Rough, to say the least. In New York with the Jets, he had to deal with the disaster that was Zach Wilson's early career. Then in Cleveland, it wasn't much better, bouncing between Deshaun Watson injuries and inconsistent quarterback play. It's hard for any receiver to thrive in those environments, but now Moore's landed in Buffalo, and the difference: Josh Allen. Moore said it best himself: "When I wasn't in, I was just watching him. I've been playing against him for going into 4 years now, and it just looked better now that he's on my side." The balls were pretty. The way that he practices, he jokes around, but at the same time, he's locked in. That's what you want to hear. That's a guy who's energized by his new situation. And that's the thing, playing for the Bills isn't just about the scheme or the stat lines. It's about the culture, the cohesion, and the community. Moore recently posted on X, formerly Twitter: "Buffalo already has been nothing but great to me already. This place really takes care of their people." That's not just some throwaway line. That's a player who's been embraced by the fan base, welcomed by the organization, and who genuinely wants to be here. Now let's talk about what Elijah Moore brings to this offense. Right now, he's likely slotted as a WR4 behind Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, and Joshua Palmer. But let's be honest, outside of Shakir, none of those spots are guaranteed. Coleman has big-time upside, but is still developing. Palmer, he's got the contract, but can he produce consistently? Moore has a real chance to climb that depth chart. At OTAs, he's already been turning heads. Sharp route running, great hands, and explosive quickness out of breaks. If he can stay consistent, Moore could easily become one of Josh Allen's go-to weapons, especially in the slot or on intermediate. Our routes where he thrives. This could be the season Elijah Moore finally breaks out. And it's happening right here in Buffalo. Alright, let's shift gears to a storyline that's starting to make some noise: James Cook's contract situation. Well, media's Kevin Patra recently called Cook the Bills' biggest remaining offseason priority. And that says a lot considering all the talent on this roster. Let's give credit where it's due. Cook had a monster 2024 season, second straight 1,000-yard year, career high 18 total touchdowns. Those are Pro Bowl level numbers, but here's the issue. Cook is heading into the final year of his rookie contract, and so far, the team hasn't shown much interest in giving him a long-term extension. Why? Well, Patra points out something important. Despite all that production, Cook played less than half of the offensive snaps last season. The Bills used a rotation. They like the committee approach. And let's be honest, in today's NFL, big money, running back contracts are becoming rare unless your name is Christian McCaffrey. So what does this mean for Cook? Right now, he doesn't have a lot of leverage. If he holds out during training camp or the season, it could backfire big time. Why? Because the Bills drafted Ray Davis, and all signs point to him being more than capable. Davis is powerful, smart, and runs behind one of the best offensive lines in football. If Cook sits out, Davis will eat. And if Davis shines, that long-term deal Cook wants becomes a distant memory. And speaking of the offensive line, center Connor McGovern is also in the final year of his deal. Some insiders actually believe he should be the bigger priority. Here's why: everything starts up front. Cook doesn't have those 1,000-yard seasons without elite blocking. If McGovern walks next offseason, this offensive line takes a huge hit. And that in turn affects everyone, not just the run game, but Josh Allen's protection, the passing attack, and red zone efficiency. So as much as we love what Cook has done, the smarter move for the front office might be to prioritize keeping the trenches intact. Even though June is knocking at the door and Miller is still a free agent, the future Hall of Famer says he's not ready to hang it up. In fact, he's more determined than ever to prove he can still contribute in the NFL, and not just as a name, but as a real difference maker. Here's what Von said recently. "I'm a locker room guy through and through, and I can still roll out of the bed and rush the passer. That's what I got." Let that sink in for a second. The man has been doing this for years, collecting 2 Super Bowl rings and a defensive MVP along the way. And even at 36, after battling injuries and father time himself, he still believes he's got enough juice to line up and make quarterbacks sweat. Now, some of you might be wondering, why isn't he still with the Bills? It wasn't about heart. It wasn't about leadership. It wasn't even about performance. It was about the cap that Von Miller had a $23.8 million cap hit in 2025. And for a team trying to stay competitive while managing tight financial margins, it just wasn't feasible. The Bills had to make some tough calls this offseason, and unfortunately, Von was one of them. But let's be clear, his presence in Buffalo was huge. He brought championship experience, veteran leadership, and yes, flashes of the pass rushing. Greatness that made him a household name in Denver and Los Angeles. In the 2024 season, despite limited snaps, Von still posted sack 17 combined tackles, quarterback hits. Not bad for a guy who was recovering from injury and rotating in and out of the lineup. And let's be real, how many guys at 36 can still bend the edge like Von Miller? For the first time in a long time, Von Miller isn't in the building for OTAs. He's not lacing up the cleats, not going through drills, and not mentoring young pass rushers on the field. And honestly, it's hitting him hard. Here's what he said about the shift. "Off-season's been a little bit longer than I expected it to be. Now you're sitting at home like, man, I wish I was at OTAs right now." That's the kind of quote that sticks with you. It's easy to take those days for granted when you're in the thick of it. But now, sitting at home, Von is feeling the absence of the grind. That desire to compete, still burning. That love for the locker room, still there. Von's mindset right now isn't about coasting into retirement. It's about finding the right opportunity, a team that sees value in experience, leadership, and someone who still has just enough left in the tank to make an impact when it matters most. Now, let's address the question that's probably bouncing around in your head right now. Could Von Miller come back to Buffalo? On paper, the door might seem closed. The cap hit, the youth movement, the depth chart, all signs say the Bills are moving forward. But football isn't always played on paper. Injuries happen. Depth becomes a concern. And sometimes the value of having a guy like Von Miller in your locker room outweighs the stats on a spreadsheet. He knows the system. He knows the culture. And most importantly, he knows what it takes to win in January and February. If there's a spot open, even just a rotational one, could Brandon Beane make a call? You never know. So Bills Mafia, 2 huge stories, 1 massive offseason ahead. On one hand, you've got Elijah Moore, finally in a system where he feels valued, appreciated, and positioned to succeed. Could this be the breakout season he's been waiting for? He's certainly saying and doing all the right things early on. On the other hand, we've got James Cook, the dynamic playmaker who wants to get paid, but might not have the leverage to force Buffalo's hand. Do the Bills lock him up now? Or do they roll with the depth they have and focus on keeping the offensive line together? We want to hear from you. What do you think about Elijah Moore? Should the Bills extend James Cook now or wait it out? And if you had to choose Cook or McGovern, who are you locking up long term? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about it. And hey, if you enjoyed this update, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment of Bills coverage. We've got more insider updates, player interviews, and training camp. Previews coming your way, so stay locked in. Until next time, stay loud, stay loyal, and go Bills.